Hey guys, thank you for joining me. This is LSid932 on YouTube, L underscore Sid underscore speaks on IG. Thank you for joining me. We are once again in our Love is Blind world, and our world is taking us to the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. I have to say, I have watched the first two episodes. I am intentionally watching two at a time before I kind of do these reviews because I don't want to be too far ahead and give an inkling of what's coming. So this is going to be a recap of episodes 1 and 2. So please, like this video, share, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for engaging on my community wall when I have quizzes, questions, or just trying something new. So again, this is LSID932. Let us dive in because the first two episodes, they are so meaty. They are juicy. They are on point. There is so much to talk about. I don't even know. Okay, just to let you know, I have 16 pages of notes. I have never had 16 pages of notes for any Love is Blind 2 episodes. Any shows 2 episodes. So let's get into it. First episode is called No More Situationships. And we start with the men in the men's lounge singing Ain't No Mountain High Enough. And that was cute. I'm glad y'all know the words. I'm hoping that we don't hear later on that some producer was whispering the words in the back, but that was really, really cute. To start off, of course, we know the Lachey's are there to welcome everyone. And in the women's lounge, the ladies say, looks fade, And one lady, we'll get to her later, she left her job for this. So from the get-go, we have someone who is unemployed. So you know how we feel about that. You have left your job, your good paying job for Love is Blind. I hope it works out for you. That was Hannah. We'll hear about her. In the men's lounge, Tyler says he's always dated off of looks first. We'll get more about that with Tyler. And one dude, Garrett, said he was too much in love with his job and he didn't want to wake up one day and wonder, where did life go? How did life pass him by? So, we'll hear more about Garrett. So the Lachey's, of course, tells the pods are open. We are introduced first to Ashley A., who is 31. She is a marketing. She has such a great energy. I like Ashley A. She says she's trying to find a man. She's been trying to find a man in the clearance rack of dating. Ashley, when I tell you that took me out, I was dying laughing. I had to pause and I had to gather myself because I'm not sure how many of you, ladies or gents, are looking for the love of your life in the clearance rack of dating. And I love me a good clearance rack, but I am not dating. I am very happily married. So I find that quite hilarious. She said her mom and dad divorced when she was 6, and then the mom remarried and divorced again. So Ashley's background with how marriage looks is going to be a little bit different. She does sit on the board of a nonprofit and believes in giving back, which is truly exemplary, Ashley. So she gets with Tyler, Mr. Tyler, who said he dated off of looks first. Tyler is 33. He is a nuclear security director. Okay, Tyler, you have a very, high-powered job, pun intended, with nuclear. So he tells her on their date that he likes to hike. He has a new puppy, an Australian shepherd, I believe he said, puppy. And, he loves to cook, which she just jumps right on it because, I don't know about you ladies, but Ashley and I certainly love to eat. So he said he refuses to not help his community. So he loves the fact that she is involved in a nonprofit. She does want kids. Tyler says, she will definitely find what she's looking for here and she will leave with her man, just put it out in the universe. And, she finds it so great that he was nervous. I mean, you heard it in his tone. I don't know if this was their mutual first date or if this was just Tyler's first date, but he did sound nervous. Next, we meet Nick. Nick is 28. He's in real estate, and he said he chops it up, and he is a great Caesar salad. When I tell you, we will hear more about Nick. Nick was hilarious. I have to say, let's put a pin in it for a moment. The gentlemen in Love is Blind DC are not lack of conversation. They are, they're not the GQ magazine type, I should say. But I would say that their conversations, there's not a single pod interaction where I was just rolling my eyes like, okay, dude. I mean, they do have lines. They do have their go-to conversation pieces, but they can go further. They can go deeper. And I was like, okay. And the ladies certainly appreciated that. So he says, Nick is my Rico Suave. Nick says he will certainly impress the ladies' friends. Nick, you are looking to impress the lady. You have to impress her before you get to see her friends or even meet them. He says he was a punter and kicker, not for the NFL, but lower teams, lower ranking teams, lower leagues. And, he is charming and smooth. The ladies all said it. I put it in my notes. We all see the same thing. Well, I see him. They just hear his words. He says he doesn't think he's ever been in love. Nick, honey, who would know if you've ever been in love if not you? So you don't think? You should know, okay? Whew. He said nerves means things matter to him. So if he feels nervous around a lady, that means she matters. Okay, Nick. So your choice of breakfast or lunch, how it affects your gut, it tells you how it matters, but I understand what you're saying, but I don't believe in it. So if he could choose to continue to be, he would choose to be an athlete. Nick, you were an athlete. You said you were a punter and a kicker. Now you're in real estate. So are you telling me that you didn't choose to stop being an athlete? Okay, we'll figure this out. Now here's Hannah, 26, in medical device sales. Hannah's the one who said she left her job for this. So let's keep that pin in there, because production, you should say formally medical device sales, because she said she left her job. She don't have a job to go to right now, but I'm sure she'll find one as soon as she's done with this show. So she says she's not a swiper. That is very overwhelming. And when Nick, says, she sounds like she has a Southern accent, because Nick is trying to charm her. He's trying to pull a few pieces, off of the string of the sweater to kind of see, who Hannah is. She says, I'm from West Virginia. She was a cheerleader in high school. And she doesn't believe that you can meet someone in a grocery store and find the love of your life, since she's been looking there and she's here on this blind. Hannah is a hoot. I really like Hannah's personality, but there's some parts of Hannah's personality we will see that I just want to be like, Hannah, baby girl. So she says at 26, she is the youngest there. And I do believe, based on the men's ages, Nick at 28 is also the youngest there. So then we meet Leo. Leo is an art dealer. It's the family business that he inherited. He has a date with Hannah, and he loves first experiences. And he loves the first experience of going to and experiencing something new or going someplace new with his person. So he says that, when he's married, they can probably go out to dinner a lot, because he doesn't believe in, gender norm stuff. If we want to go to dinner, we can go to dinner. You don't have to be cooking. Then Leo has a date with Brittany, who is 32 and an esthetician. She tells us in her confessional that she mainly dates athletes and rock stars. Okay? And she can seduce anyone, and she is a trophy wife. Brittany has a good sense of self-worth, and she's like, I can have anyone, and I can be a trophy wife. And we will hear more about that later from Brittany. But Brittany, oh, I'm hoping, I'm hoping that you give me something more than this, because this right now is not giving you. She is a trophy wife. It's not giving to me, and I just want to be nice to Brittany for right now till we get to some important parts. So then we go to Garrett, who is 31. He's a physicist. He loves to cook. And Brittany just perked up on her date with him because she's like, I hate to cook. And she says, you know what? I can't spell physicist. So if you see it right now in my notebook, don't judge me. And I was like, I can't judge Brittany. I can spell it correctly. I did in my notes. But I can't judge Brittany too harshly. But at least she said it out loud. But Brittany, honey, you are trying to capture this man's attention. He's a physicist. So telling him you can't spell his job isn't quite endearing. Brittany, I would have kept that hush. I would have said, hey, how do you spell physicist? Love, or how do you spell it? Brittany, golly. Garrett then has a date with Taylor, who's 29, and she's a policy advocate. But, you know, she said she played basketball in high school. She said, you know, she has an injury from that time, you know, that stopped her from pursuing it more. She said, but if the Y has a 40-plus league, I'm going to be on it. And Karen had this horrific face on the other side, and she had to be like, no, I'm not 40, I'm 29. I'm just saying when I get there, I'm going to be on the Y 40-plus league. Karen's face when she said 40-plus, I'm thinking it was now, was so funny. Y'all need to see his face. He was just like, what? Like, what was the age group that he kind of like looking for the producers? What was the age group on this again? What she's 40? I don't think at 31 I wanted to be with someone over 40, but that was too funny. Taylor did say that she hated physics in school. And he said that he had a childhood where he wanted to achieve so much when he was a kid that led him to being a physicist. And he wants his next relationship to be his last. And when they were talking, even though Taylor is a policy advocate, she is still in the field of chemistry. And I believe she said it was like clean energy policy advocate. So she knew a lot of the chemistry and physics and everything he was talking about. And I put in my notes that they're linked by their brain capacity, if that is a way to say it. They are, you know, attracted to the smarts in the other one. Because she was like, oh, so if I make these funny science jokes, you'll get it. So I'm thinking they're kind of linked on the brain. On day 2, Netflix tells us, you know, they show them waking up and they show a plethora. When I say plethora, they showed a plethora of food in the lounges. There was not a space on the counter in sight. There was fruit, cheeses, meats, breads. They're like, we will no longer be accused of not feeding these people. Okay. The only thing is, you know, some things have to be cooked. Some folks wanted bacon. Some folks wanted eggs. So, of course, those had to be cooked. But everything else was catered. So we go to Tim, 32. He's a content strategist. He says he has always had a problem being understood. And that he was a dog in the past. And he came here to find his wife. Tim, I just met you, but I don't believe you. Tim, I don't believe you at all. I don't believe you. Then we have Alex, 32, who is a fashion content manager. And I had to make a note that Alex is a lady. Some of the ladies like Taylor and so forth, they have names that I could probably mistake for one of the dudes. And I'm like, nope, that's the lady is Alex. So Tim says he has a lion tattoo. She's like, oh my gosh, she's a Leo, he's a Virgo, but she doesn't want to scare him with her astrology, you know, talk. good thinking, Alex, because being aware that could scare some people. Um, she did say that both of her parents have MS. Her stepmom takes care of her dad. Her mom was in a 15-year long relationship with someone. And when her MS got really bad, the gentleman left her. So Alex is kind of sharing some information. For me, I have some family members with MS, and I'm wondering, Alex, your mom and your dad have it. I'm wondering if Alex will certainly share if she has any fears that she may have it as well, because it's very, very interesting. Tim said his dad has always showed up. He's always showed love. He's never felt, a lack of emotion from his dad. He also said, he has not seen his worst day, but he has had challenging days. And while I did not believe Tim before that he's looking for a wife now, he does share emotional moments of his past. He has 2 big sisters. They have both passed away, and he was the baby brother. He said his life has been shaped by death. He does not want to get married, but he wants to pass away married. The song, and I love Netflix. Netflix always puts a song in. The song choice is still on point. Again, production, whoever is curating the music for Love is Blind, they need another raise, because all these songs in episodes 1 and 2 are on point. The song is, the lyrics, I always say the lyrics. Song is, I have been waiting for your love, started as strangers, now you're my savior. Now, I'm concerned when Tim says that his life has been shaped by the passing of family. I'm wondering if Tim was a player back in the day because he didn't want to get attached to someone for fear of losing that person, and he's so emotionally invested. I'm hoping Tim is not trying to trauma bond at this time with Alex, because she, of course, has 2 parents with MS, and, that is a debilitating disease. I'm looking at Tim like this connection, how it's starting, I'm really trying not to be too concerned. So next we have Tyler and Ashley A. They're on another date. Remember, Ashley had told Tim she was looking on the clearance rack for head. Oh my gosh, Ashley, you will always be in my thoughts with that comment. Okay. So she says, how do you feel about sharing your phone with your significant other? He's like, hey, I got to trust you. You got to be able to trust me. He said he will give the phone. They will share passwords, whatever. It's like, oh, she's like, oh, check mark. Then we have Garrett and Taylor. This is my science couple. They had a great convo. I just said good convo. It wasn't anything special that I need to make note of. Then we have Leo and Brittany. Remember, Leo is our art curator, our art dealer, and Brittany's our esthetician. Leo says his first impression of her was bubbly but deep. Leo says, in his confessional earlier, that he no longer wants a woman who is after him for his money. Okay? Leo. I don't know Brittany, but Brittany's saying she's a trophy wife. Trophy wife has a certain connotation. Connotation is, I'm here to look good, and you're here to spend money for me to look good. Okay? So, Leo, are you going back to your old habits of finding a woman who's after your money? First impressions. He says he grew up well off, and then his family contracted cancer and they passed away. Brittany seemed bored with the conversation. Brittany was like holding her cup, looking at the water just drip down the side of her cup. She's looking at her straw. Brittany looked bored with this conversation. I was like, girl, At least say something. Say, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh. Da, da, da. And she just comes up with, well, what do you believe in marriage and finances? I was like, girl, he just said his family passed away from cancer. Could we Brittany, I'm trying to like you, Brittany. But he says he does not believe in paying it all, but he doesn't believe in 50-50 if he makes more money. Good answer, Leo. So Brittany said she really didn't, think about this much in the past. Most of the other men in the pods were a hard 50-50. You hear that, ladies? Other ladies in the pod. Other ladies in the pod. You heard that? Brittany gave it away that the other men are hard 50-50. She said her lifestyle is a lot. Hair, makeup, nails, and everything. It is expensive. And in her last relationship, she was taken care of 100%. Brittany, okay. I know you're throwing it out there. I'm wondering, Leo, are you hearing? He says he's insecure about why a woman wants him. Because what if he lost all his money? What if he said a flood came in and took away all the artwork that his family's business is invested in? And Brittany said if she wanted to marry for money, she could have married long ago. And I'm like, Brittany, what is long ago? And why didn't you marry? What was wrong with it, with the marriage or the person at the time? I have questions, Brittany. Are you just saying this to get Leo to let his guard down, to make him think you're not for the money? I have questions, Brittany. So then she starts talking. Let's talk baby names. Remember, I said this is day 2. This is day 2, and Brittany wants to talk baby names. Brittany, pump your brakes, please. Pump the brakes. So she starts saying, oh, what about Leo? He's like, I don't want a kid with the same name as me. What about Levi or a girl Blaze? And I'm like, is she playing him? Is she really playing Leo? Is she trying to? It's like, oh, you're not a 50-50. Okay. And you've got money. Okay. Brittany, you sounded like you are after him and his money. Seems like both Leo and Brittany are going back to the same thing they did outside the pods. So when Leo goes to the men's lounge, he's telling the men that his parents and grandparents all passed away of cancer. He says he grew up financially secure. Private schools, country club. Leo, are you bragging? Can you look around the room at the audience in the men's lounge? Are you bragging? Doesn't look good. He does believe he's a unique and special person. And somebody points out, yo, man, you wearing a real Rolex? yeah, I am. Leo, you're starting to sound like you're pushing your wealth. When somebody does that, I sometimes wonder, do you really have wealth? We'll hear more about it later. So Leo goes and he has a date with Hannah. Remember, Hannah doesn't work anymore. She's into medical sales, I believe, or science sales. And he said he's dreamt of her. He doesn't know what she looks like. He dreamt of her. He appreciates that she didn't ask a lot about his job, which she's like, I heard you say art dealer, but I don't know what that entailed too much. I love it, Hannah. Hannah's like, I don't know too much about it. I'm not going to ask too many questions for him to know that I don't know much about it. So he said it's interesting, because he thinks his job is interesting because not many people meet an art dealer. Bragging Leo. I'm going to call him Leo the Lion in a moment. So then we have he says that she's the most mature person that he has talked to in this entire experiment. So that is really, really interesting because they're like the youngest ones. And she says that she's attracted to his brain. So Leo thinks they might be twin flames, he and Hannah. So the song they played is Waiting All My Life to Find You. Okay. So I'm like, huh, okay. Interesting song choice. Are you telling us Leo makes a choice? What are you telling us? So then Hannah says she's opening to exploring all the relationships and not tie herself down to Leo too quickly. Hannah, good thinking, because this is only day 2. Hannah and Nick. Nick is our smooth talker, the former punt. He's a real estate agent. He's a former punter and kicker. And Hannah, describes her outfit. She's wearing a hot pink kind of vest suit. And, considering she tells him that she was a cheerleader in high school, they compare themselves to Taylor Swift and Travis. And I'm like, oh gosh, this is some young people stuff, but okay. Remember, they're the youngest ones in the group. Just remember, they're the youngest ones in the group. So they describe celebrity crushes, and I'm like, why? Why? But it gives a good insight on the person and how they think and what they like. So he thinks he's a less buff version of Henry Cavill. When I say I paused, when I say I cackled, here we are with another famous comparison. But Nick turned it around and said, I'm a less buff version. Nick, you are too funny. Nobody can complain or argue that you are a less buff version of Henry Cavill. She asked, if our kids come out ugly, what then? And I'm like, Hannah, the man don't know what you look like, and you gonna tell him, what if our kids come out looking ugly? Jack Hornet. He said, we're gonna love them. And Hannah's like, well, some babies are ugly. Hannah, I hope you haven't told people that you think their baby look ugly. Whew. Nick says she is hot in his head. And I'm like, Nick, you go. You tell that lady, I don't care what you look like. I'm seeing this blue wall, but your voice makes me think you hot. And I'm like, warning Nick, she can probably arm wrestle you and win. Okay? Because when we saw the ladies' lounge, Hannah was like curling her arms and showing the ladies her muscles. Okay? In the ladies' lounge, Hannah's like, he's so smooth, but he's deeper than other people think. And I'm like, okay, Hannah, he's different with you. Okay. But all the ladies laugh at her, and she seems very dejected. The ladies are like, girl, she's just a smooth talker. He just know what to say to get to the lady. I mean, are you falling for it? I mean, the ladies really were chomping on Hannah about Nick. Then we have our science couple have a date, Taylor and Garrett. He leaves a chessboard in her pod, and apparently she told him that she really likes chess. And, he said he missed her and he feels a strong connection with her, and she feels the same. It's a big step for him to talk about a future together, and he asks about her parents. Now, Taylor said that they are the kindest people, and her dad is very handy. He actually built the family home with his hands, and she doesn't want kids too soon, but thinks her dad will be a great granddad. She says her mom is gentle but a gangster. Taylor, I understand. I can be gentle at times, but I'm a gangster too. Shh, don't tell nobody. So she doesn't want to give her mom's ethnicity away, doesn't want to give her name because that will tell him that Taylor is of Asian descent. And this made me wonder, I don't know if anybody out there has seen the other Love is Blind seasons, but there was one with Natalie, and I think the gentleman's name was Shane. And I wonder if Natalie's and Shane's experience, she doesn't want to share, but that's just my thought. So, he says, I think she had he said that he has only dated white girls. That has been all his life. And, it's going to be possibly a shock, that it's, somebody of a different persuasion, but he is going to, enjoy it. So he says that she sounds calculating in what she says and how she says it, like she's trying to hide. Like she's trying to hide and not give any clues to her ethnicity. So she sounds a little dejected. She looked dejected. And he's like, are you being yourself, or are you giving me a carefully curated image? And are you presenting a certain way? But he says he doesn't think so, but it is in the back of his mind. What I appreciated with Garrett saying this is that he understands that there's something off with her. And I'm glad he picked up on that, even though he's never seen her. He can't see her face and get cues. But it's in his back of his mind, is this really her? Or is this her hiding a big part of herself? Which I'm glad he vocalized that, and the way he did. Even though she sounded dejected, she sounded like more, oh dang, he found me out. But not like he insulted her, which it didn't sound like that to me. He says, he wants to know more about her. And she says, she wants to have someone not know about her looks and what she looks like. So he's telling her that, she needs to show off more of herself. She needs to feel like she's enough. And the only way she can do that is by showing who she is inside. And he certainly encourages her not to tell him her ethnicity, but still show who she is on the inside. I thought it was a really great conversation. He said it's not going to prevent him from moving forward with her, thinking this specially curated version of herself, but just show more of who she is inside. And the Netflix song is "This Is Where Forever Starts, Where It All Begins." Again, Netflix. Oh, whoever that person is, you are finding the right song at the right temperature, right tone, right genre. Oh my gosh, you're doing great. So then we have Ashley A. and Tyler again. So Ashley, and Tyler share about they both cook breakfast for everyone. She's like, oh, I made the eggs, and she's, excellent at her egg making. And he said, oh, I made stuffed French toast. Tyler, why does it sound like you're trying to one-up her? She's like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, I did this and this and this. And I'm like, too much sugar. Too much sugar, stuffed French toast, too much sugar. But anyway. He said he does not believe in gender roles, but he will be the protector of her and the family. She asked him about, what is some of his random talents. He said he's a good skier and he has tongue talent that he knew as a kid. And she's like, why did you even know about that as a kid? Why did you even bring that up? And they had a good banter back and forth. She does know how to ride horses and she loves it. And she wants to skydive before her wedding. And Tyler made the funniest joke. He's like, yeah, if we survive the skydive, then we got to get married. That's too funny. He did share that he grew up struggling. His mom's dad disowned her for having kids outside of their race. They're from Serbia. And she raised, 3 kids by herself. But grandma did support her in any way she can. So one day the mom sat them down and told them that grandma had cancer. And he just didn't know how to console his mom. Okay. He told himself he's going to be married one day and happy and create a big family. And he wants his kids, grandkids, and everybody to come over. And wants someone where he can show and share all of his love with. Now, Tyler again. Whew. I was confusing you for Tim for a moment, and I had to run back up and see. But it seems like Tyler also has family loss is shaping his thoughts of the future. So the song they played is "My Heart's Been Ripped Wide Open, Spent a Lifetime Searching, I See This Love Is Taking Over." And then before they leave the pods. They give, a lighthearted conversation, and they say, every the song is, every news I get, I want to share it with you. Every thought I have, I want to tell you. Every funny joke, I want to try it with you. And he says, we're boyfriend and girlfriend now. I'm telling people we are boyfriend and girlfriend. She's like, are we? We're going to chat tomorrow, but are we boyfriend and girlfriend? She is not giving him an inch or a mile. He says, yeah, I'm excited. I like to hear that. She's like, oh, you like hearing reassurance? And he's like, yes, I love it. And I'm like, is she playing him, or is she protecting herself by not falling too deep too soon? I'm watching it. I'm watching to see what Ashley moves with Tyler. So we have the men's lounge. Leo says that Brittany is like his ex. Hannah and him would not have found each other in the outside world. So then Tyler comes over and gives great advice, because remember, Tyler used to date visually. He says the past didn't work. Okay? This is why you're here. He said Ashley and him would date outside, but she would not have gotten this close to him on the outside because he's closed off when he was dating. He said he would talk to her, but he would be shut off emotionally in the outside world. And he's like, he's feeling safe with her, safe to have conversations, safe to show emotions, and he's never felt safe before in a relationship. There's another gentleman there. I didn't quite get his name. He says, Brittany's going to be expensive. And Leo's like, I have money. And then the dude mentions, oh yeah, you got a Rolex. And I'm like, is Leo leading with his money? Leo says he doesn't want people to choose him for his money, but it seems like with Brittany and in the men's lounge, he's leading with money. In the ladies' lounge, Hannah's like, I don't want to marry someone who's naturally flirtatious. She's talking about Nick. She doesn't not believe him, but she still wants to talk to him. The way he talks, the way he knows how to talk to women, she feels objectified whenever he's like, oh, I want to see how you look in your bikini or your bathing suit on the vacation. And, he feels like a man that she couldn't be without makeup around. Like she always had to be done up and presentable and look perfect. And the lady's like, girl, you got to do what you got to do. So we have the men's lounge. Dick goes and says he could see himself with Hannah. He's never loved romantically. And he asks, the other gentleman, which we learn his name later on, but he asks, him, what about, have you been dating Hannah? Because he knows she's dating, two other people. And he's like, not me. But he doesn't ask Leo, who's also at the table. But Leo, before he could be asked, that's how it looks in editing. Remember, this is an edited show. Before he can be asked, Leo gets up and leaves the table. And I was like, that should be it, your answer, Nick. But he didn't even look like he knew. And the song, shady music. The song is I'm Out for Blood. I can almost smell it. I was like, dang. So we have Hannah and Nick have a date. She has concerns and asks, why is he here? He says dating has not worked for him. He said he's looking at his parents and his friends and their relationship, and he knows he's doing something wrong. He wants unconditional love. He wants sincere stuff. He wants genuine love. And it's like, why has it all of a sudden become clear? You talk about looks, you talk about being an athlete, you shouldn't have trouble finding someone in the real world. He's like, what you are here sounds perfect for me. And she's like, it's because of guys like you, what I've dated in the past, but I'm not perfect. I'm hot, but I'm not perfect. I'm like, you tell him, Hannah, you are hot, but not perfect. And she's like, I don't want to be perfect. I just want to be me. And I feel like she's feeling the constraints of, dang, I got to be perfect for Nick. And he's like, that's what I'm looking for. Nobody's perfect. Everybody's weird in their own way. I don't want you to be perfect. I don't expect it. She's like, you scare me, and that you think that I'm hot like a Victoria's Secret model, but I am not. You say perfect things and all of these things, and it just, it's making her feel out of her element. He's like, why can't you go with that? And she's like, I have a gut feeling and I don't like it. I'm struggling. I don't know what to believe. I don't know if you don't care about how I look. And he says, I love talking to her. I don't give a F about what she looks like. He doesn't want her to be perfect. He is not perfect. So no matter what, he will love his person and he will love them all. He comes, he said he comes in the pods to talk to his best friend and his wife. I thought that was sweet. But what we see, it's an edited show. They don't have deep conversations. This is the deepest conversation we have seen with them, because it's always a back and forth about, good things. And we haven't seen it much. So Hannah does say she likes him. She's not sure they can spend the rest of their lives together. He's still working on where he wants to be, and her other connections may be a bit stronger. And he's like, it sucks to hear this, because he wants to leave with her and he saw a future with her. And he wishes her the best of luck. And he says it like really fast. Yeah, I know you're going to find what you're looking for. It sounded real snippy. And I know it's because he's hurt. I know it's because he's being dumped. And the song they play, the lyrics are, I hear the blood cursing the ground. There's only dust between the stars. I am not made of stone. Can't build a world of bones. Woo, they keep getting better and better with these songs, okay? So, in the women's lounge, Hannah tells the lady she broke it off with Nick. Brittany walks in and said, oh my gosh, I had a great date. And Leo, and she's like, looks at Hannah and she's like, oh my God, I apologize. I didn't mean to say the name. And I'm like, really? Brittany, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, but you saw Hannah. She turned around to look at you when you walked in. You saw her there. So to say his name, which I'm thinking you ladies have a pact not to say men's names, or maybe you knew she liked him. But Brittany, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt now. But I'm side-eyeing that. I'm side-eyeing it. So Hannah turns to the lady she was talking to while Brittany runs away. She's like, and there it is. Leo's my number one. In the men's lounge, Nick says, that was my girl. Hannah was my girl. And the other guy's like, what's changed? He's like, I don't know. I don't know what's changed between us. On the other side of the room, Leo is talking about his Rolex, and he's letting another man in the men's lounge wear it. And I'm like, is Leo really rich? Is he really as wealthy as he says? Because I hate to say, he's starting to sound a little pompous about it. He's starting to sound like, oh, here I am. I'm wealthy. I've got a Rolex. Would you like to hold my Rolex? I knew you probably never held a real Rolex. That's what he's sounding like. But I'm putting this on Leo, but his behavior is showing, and I have not researched anyone. I have not gone on social media to look at anyone. I'm going to take this as the edited show. And the edited show is showing me that Leo is talking about his money in the men's lounge. He's talking about it with Brittany. And I'm thinking he's leading there. And it's only because maybe Hannah doesn't really know too much about it. As she said, she just ain't concerned. She wants to know who he is. And I'm wondering if his money talks don't work with her. We'll put a pin in that. Now move to episode 2. In a woman's lounge, they play a weird game to me. But I understand it. Y'all got no TV, no social media, nothing but each other. And the game is perfect husband, but it is Brittany, it is Taylor, and I think it's Ashley W. And my husband's perfect, but doesn't wear shoes. So Brittany and Taylor said, we can work with that. Brittany's like, I'll think about it. Then Taylor shares, my husband's perfect, but can't read. And they're like, yeah, we could work with that. Taylor's like, I could read the menu for the both of us, honey, don't worry. Then Brittany asks, my husband's perfect, but you are his fifth wife. And they all kind of look at each other. And I think it's Ashley W. was the other lady. She's like, I need to know how the marriages end. Was it divorce or was it passing away? I need to know how these other marriages ended. So Taylor is excusing everything. She's like, yeah, I can work with that. I can work anything in they say is I can work with it. Then she's like, yeah, everything but all of his wives need to be alive. Those are my boundaries. I was like, finally, Taylor's got a boundary. Finally, Taylor's like, I need his wives to be alive. Okay. So we meet Monica, who is 36. She's in tech sales. She said when she dates, she's initially really attracted. And then when she gets below the surface, there's no compatibility. I'm like, Monica, I'll leave that there. She said she loves arms. And, it's for her, it's all outside. And, at first sounded like Tyler, sounded like Tim. So she meets Steven, who is 33, an electrician. Yeah, Steven. All the men are good looking, but how she says she loves arms. Steven has a good set of arms on him, okay? He's an electrician. Yeah, I don't think he earned those arms through the gym, but they are well-made arms, okay? I'll leave it there. So Steven says his last relationship, they dated for 2 years. It ended 2.5 years ago. He's big on emotional intelligence. He talks about his feelings and he thinks that's really important in a relationship to share your feelings. So Monica says that, she has learned that it is normal to have a bad day, and not to be someone who is perfect and not to expect perfection. And she doesn't want her person to expect perfection either. So, Steven shares that, you like someone for their quality, but you love them for their flaws. And she's like, oh, I've always been drawn to flaws. Monica, is that what we calling red flags now? Flaws? Are we calling red flags flaws? Don't cover up a red flag, girl. Don't dress it up. It sounds like you're attracted to red flags. He says in the past, he has the label of cheater. He has cheated. But that's because he didn't think he deserved her. Now, hold on. Let us not judge. Let's hear the whole story. Steven goes into it. And as Steven says, everyone has a different definition of cheating. Everyone has a different definition. Okay? So he said he slid into someone's DMs. He was flirtatious, and he was flirtatious with intention. So he emotionally cheated. He got caught. He's glad he got caught, but he's disappointed in himself. They did go to a relationship counselor. He is indeed in therapy right now. But remember, he said he didn't think he deserved the person he was with at the time. So it's up for everyone to think, and for you to make your own judgment. Was that cheating? You can put it in the comments. When Steven said he slid into the DMs, he was flirtatious. He hadn't met the person. He was just back and forth in the DMs. Is that cheating? Answer the question in the comments. So she's like, she has had gross and bad experiences with cheaters, but she has found a path to forgiveness, and she appreciates how he describes the cheating. And he's like, he wants to take her out on a date. She's like, I would love to. Now, it depends on how you answer that. Is it cheating? But when Monica says, I believe, Monica says she's found a path to forgiveness. How many paths have you had to forgiveness, Monica? How many men in the past, in your relationships, have you had to forgive? Have they led you to forgiveness? Because it sounds to me like you are just walking back and forth to them in forgiveness. And you love their flaws. I'm hoping the flaws aren't red flags, dressed up. Monica, I need you to be aware. I need you to be eyes wide open. Stephen, I appreciate you sharing. I appreciate you share more later on. I do like Stephen. I like how he didn't sugarcoat what he did. He didn't try to hide it, and he certainly shared it with a woman that he has intentions with in these pods. In the women's lounge, we go back to Hannah. She is regretting ending it with Nick. Whew. Hannah buys remorse. Hannah, haven't we seen this before? Somebody breaks up and then they're sad about it later. Oh gosh. And she said, somebody says, as soon as he goes home, he gonna look us up on IG. And they're like, yeah, he gonna look you up on IG. She's like, oh my gosh. She's like, I don't know if he's gone yet. He should be gone tonight, but I'm going to request a date with him. Okay. Leo and Brittany. Remember, Leo is our Rolex carrying art dealer. She does say, I paused it because I was looking at my notes like, what? What did I write? So she did say that she mentioned his name in the women's lounge, and she's sorry about that. She does believe in jealousy and evil eyes. And he said he's not mad. He wants to focus on them. He has a crush on her. And she said she's just in a sad mood. And he said he's falling for her, and the L word is scary for him. And I'm like, Leo, are you playing? Are you playing her? Because she said she's in a sad mood, and you don't try to get her out of a sad mood. You just say you're falling for her, and the love word is scary. And I'm wondering, is Leo more of a player than Nick? Is Nick more the outward player that you could pick up from a mile away with those lines? And is Leo the more emotional person that will worm his way into your heart, into your corner? I wonder. So he says he's lucky he has two connections. Why we talk? You just said you don't want to talk about the other person. Okay. And she cries and says she won't beg someone to be with her. Daggone right, Brittany. Wants him to be happy, even if it's, not with her. And he loves that she's so open, and what we share right now is going to be seared in his memory. And she's like, why? Why? She's like, she has this feeling of like, I'm like crying right now. I'm feeling off. I'm in a sad mood, yet this is what's going to be seared in your memory. And he says he hates feeling like a player. You feel like a player? Maybe you are a player. But anyway. She knows that he's the type to have a pros and cons list for each person that he's dating. He's like, oh, you're so smart. She's like, yes, I am smart. And I'm like, y'all, cut it. And I think this was badly edited because he goes on to say, people assume you're not smart, but people underestimate you. And that's your superpower. And after this date, now she's number one. It just felt disjointed. It felt like a lot was cut out. Like she roasted him for a little bit and then he came back. I feel like something was missed. He says, if someone told him that they were getting married tomorrow, he and Brittany, he would be overjoyed. Leo, you control whether or not you and Brittany get married tomorrow. What someone told you? Who's someone? The producers can't even tell you. You get to decide. You get to choose. So make a choice. If someone told him. I think that is the player tone for Leo. I'm sorry. I'm feeling I'm feeling undercover player. A player that people, or usually people, can't see from a mile away, but is given that. So Brittany, kind of deflates and gives a softer side of herself since she's feeling so sad. She opens up more. I feel like she's not putting on the perfection that Hannah was mentioning before. She, hesitates and says, yes, then he asks if she, when he asked if she would mind being married to him. And she's like, no, I wouldn't mind. She's like, yes, I would marry you. And it gives a hesitation. And while she cries, I realize he says emotions and she feels and is showing the emotion in this moment. He's like, oh yeah, this is really emotional. This is really, and it's like he's saying it. So the song they play is you gotta be going crazy. Don't break my heart. Is this a precursor? So Hannah and Nick have a date. She's not been okay after what she did. Netflix, are we doing second chances? Because before, when we break up, the person packs their things, gets everything out the cubby, and they go home. Now, all of a sudden, Nick is still there. Hannah says, oh my God, I made a mistake. I want Nick back. And he gets to stay. I'm watching you, Netflix. If Love is Blind doesn't do this on a regular, give you at least an overnight to think about it. I'm watching you. Why does Hannah and Nick get a second chance? Okay. Then Hannah proceeds to lay down on the couch and puts her shoe-clad feet on the pillows. Now, I'm not a germaphobe by no means, but I have a thing about putting your shoes on the pillows on the couch. I have a thing about that. I just put in my notes, ew. I said she's laying with her shoes on the pillows. Pillows. To throw pillows on the couch. I'm like, I hope this lounge area is just for her. Because I would be really upset if I knew this pod 15, that Hannah got her shoes on, that y'all let me come in here and lay my head on a pillow that Hannah's shoes been all over. I'm oh my gosh. Anyway, Hannah, you dropped down a few pegs for me with that one. But let's get back to them. This is not about me. So don't be that laugh. Nick is sharing his emotions. He said he was hurt. He felt hurt. She would be a great wife to any man that she chooses to say yes to. She apologizes. She didn't want to hurt him, but she wanted to, end things before he dumped her first. And that, all the ladies were talking and telling her, Hannah, you know what you got to do. And he's like, wait a minute. People told you to end it with me and you listened? And Nick kind of perked up on that. And I perked up too, Nick, because it's like the other ladies told you to dump me, so you dump me. Okay. Hannah said she was scared. She's scared he'll break her heart, be disappointed in her. And he says everything right. He's like, girl, I said I'm not perfect. Hannah's like, what if he doesn't like what he sees? He's like, I have doubts too. He's like, what if you don't like what you see? And he wants her to give him a real chance. The song that they play is I Was Standing on the Edge of Forever, and Now I'm Standing with You. Very poignant song, as always. And Hannah, your insecurities are showing. And I will say this because I don't like to do too much talking about visually how the woman looks. But Hannah, at this present time, her physique does not give she was a cheerleader in high school, to be really nice and gentle with her. And I think that's where her insecurities are coming. I think this is where she thinks, oh my gosh, this is the football jock I would have dated in high school, but I don't know if he would date me now. And I understand, Hannah, but you can't let that stop you from finding the love of your life, okay? So now next she goes to Leo. They have a date, and he said it's getting intense. Both of the ladies are amazing, and he just want to feel like a player. Cue the song. And he wants to date until the end. And she's like, yeah, I do too. You're supposed to. And he's like, oh, I'm so glad you're so understanding of this. Again, Leo sounded like a player. Leo said he's surprised at how well they know each other when they have not seen each other. And Hannah says she does want a life with him, and she agrees that they're twin flames. Again, I reiterate, Hannah, you're not seeing the games Leo is playing. He's playing the game, but he's not as outward as Nick. The song they play at the end of the date is, I have a taste for this adventure. There's more to discover, I'm sure. So then Taylor and Garrett are science couple. I'm just calling them my science couple. I'm sorry. She got him an avocado plant, and the reason is so amazing. Oh, it's so symbolic. Oh, if you don't love science after this couple, I don't know what will get you. So she says she loves plants. She talked about plants and trees in their last date. And like her, this is her plan. This avocado will bear fruit in about 5 to 7 years. And like her, she'd like to wait 5 to 7 years before having kids. Interesting way of bringing up the kids and the kid delay topic. Very beautifully done, Taylor. He gave her honey from his dad's bee farm. And she said this is very special because this is the secret ingredient in her spicy margarita. And he's like, ooh, I'd like to have some sometime. So they both intentionally gave each other gifts that they can use and are very symbolic. So, Taylor says she feels good about them. And he said, hey, let's talk about the kid timeline. This avocado, say 5 to 7 years. Can we compromise on this? And they had a great conversation. And she said she was worried because, she didn't want to rush into something and compromise herself and who she is. But she can see having kids with him. And I think I understand Taylor. It's like, I'm going to say 5 to 7 years because I don't know this person. I don't know, what life will bring. But it certainly is that I could compromise if this is really good and this is a really great relationship and I could see us having kids. Yeah, we could talk about having them sooner, but still leave time to learn about each other. So he said, that's great that she's able to have this conversation. So he kind of knows. So she's like, when will you ask me to be your girlfriend? I'm like, Taylor, you don't ask the dude right away. You don't ask him so bluntly. I am a blunt person, I know, but in relationships, I am not going to ask him when he going to make me girlfriend. I just watch. But he can't watch, I guess. You can't watch. So I understand, Taylor, but hey, it was just a little blunt for me. I would have been a little more finesse, but those are my past and my player days, so I guess this is okay. So he does ask, will you be my girlfriend? And she's like, no, but you have 2 hours, the length of this date, to convince me. I was like, this back and forth pulling, it's cute. I hope this is not how they are always going to be. I hope it remains cute because sometimes back and forth can get tired. He says, we're in trouble now if you don't know by now. And she said she's a little bit salty because in a previous date, he had compared their story or the movie that he compares her with is Shrek 2, that movie comparison. And he had a great comparison that, you're looking for love and, you're looking for love in all different places and you find it in an unconventional way. So he said he is not walking out of there without her being his girlfriend. She's like, hey, we in a situationship. I guess a love is blind kinship. Um, can and she can see him as her life partner. He says he'll be in shock when he first sees her, and he's going to kiss her right away. She's like, I approve. She just hopes that she is taller than him. And he's like, that's going to be strangely unique. And they just joke back and forth. And I'm glad they had a serious talk, because a lot of this stuff is like banter back and forth. So he says society trains us to look at looks first. And, he wants to take this risk with her. And he says, what do you feel about, how do you feel about flowers? And she's like, any flower that you give me, I will love. Her favorite type of flowers were sunflowers. He's like, oh, that's like my mom. Another great connection. So she's like, we have not said I love you. He's like, I'm afraid to say it because you may not say it back. And she's like, okay, it's been okay. This has been really okay. And they both kind of laugh. And the song lyrics are, we are connected. Great date. Great date. Marissa, 31, law clerk, and Bowden, who is 35 and a sales manager. We're in a new, there's some great cycles of stories of human beings. Oh, the stories they're telling. I have to say, on This Love is Blind, which is very similar to Sweden, I love the stories of these people. He says that people judge him when they first see him. They see, frat boy who has a good job that he probably got with his family's connections, and that he has no depth. But for real, actually, he was born in the Ukraine. He came here at 2, and his bio dad passed away soon after. The dad who raised him is Filipino and is his hero and inspiration. Oh my gosh. Bowden. So Marissa, law clerk, has a date with him, and she says, we had an incredible date yesterday. We didn't get to see it. They bond over reading. She has a Harry Potter tattoo. And, she asks, what is your party story? So, when you get to a party, you have a story to tell. His story, he says, in 2010, he was in the Marine Corps in Kuwait. He saw lots of camels and he wanted photos with them. And his friend is like, that dude, that ain't a good idea. So one camel made eye-to-eye contact with him. And he didn't want to grab his camera and lose eye contact because he didn't want to lose the staring challenge. I'm like, dude, do you know that for some animals, eye-to-eye contact is challenging? You are challenging them for dominance? So, of course, the camel starts to chase him. And he says while he's running, he gets hit in the back of the head. He falls, he rolls over, and all he sees is like the camel raising the hooves above him and dropping the hooves on the side of him, ready to stomp him. And I'm like, this is your party story? I thought party stories were supposed to be light and jovial. He says eventually the camel just huffs and leaves them alone. He just knew at that moment he was going to pass away. Then I was like, what in the world? He said he knew that his mom would have gotten a letter or gotten information that he would have passed away by camel. I'm like, dude, this is not a party story. I'm sorry. I know party stories is light as funny. He is. Then Marissa goes further, and I'm like, yeah, you may laugh at this, Marissa, but then she asked him about the Ukraine war. So remember, he says he was born in Ukraine. He says he left for the Ukraine because he is from there. He has military experience. He has no wife and no kids. So he made the decision to leave the U.S. and go home and help Ukraine in the war. He said his work was very wonderful and understanding. They allowed him to take time and not quit. They let him, go and do what he needs to do. His job even raised the money for his gear and all the stuff he would need. He said the hardest call was to his parents, but, they were waiting on his call, and they thought what he was doing was noble, and they understood. And he didn't think he would get all of that support. And all he could think about was there are 19-year-old kids who didn't know how to fight, who were going to have to for their country, which was also his country. It's very moving. She said she also was in the military and she understands the call to help. And, he asked, well, what is your party story? She's like, wait a minute, I can't follow that. I mean, girl, you asked him for 2 stories. Least you could do is give him one. So she's like, I don't want to tell you a dumb party story. He's like, you could tell me a dumb story and I'm not going to think you're stupid. Because she was like, I don't want you to think I'm stupid. He's like, I'm not going to think that. He's like, you're in law school. There's no way I can ever see you as stupid. In the men's lounge, we meet Ramses. He said he has not had a great date in a long time. Ladies of DC and surrounding areas. Or is this Ramses' fault? Ramses. I mean, I have questions. What do you consider not a great date? Is it the company? Because if it's the date itself, then if you asked her, then you took her on a date. Okay. So, golly. Bowden tells him, hey, it's cool. And he's like, I am sure there are going to be love triangles and hearts are going to be broken in these pods. And shady Netflix. Shady Love is Blind. Shady, shady, shady. Because Ramses, the next scene is his date with who? But Marissa. Marissa, who just had a date with Bowden, who he just told her his 2 stories. Ramses just had it. Ramses is dating Marissa. He was just sitting at the table with Bowen. Whew, child. All I put in my notes was burn. Ramses like, there's going to be love triangles. You're going to be in one, Ramses. You are in one. And you didn't even know it at the men's lounge table. So when he walks in the pods, he's speaking Spanish to her. And, hey, dear, And she's like, yeah, showing up. she is. I love Marissa's energy as well. So, Marissa thanks him for the date earlier, which we did not see, and says she could talk to him about anything. He says, hey, we're dwindling down our choices, and he thinks of her a lot, and she is his top connection. So she says, she only has 2 connections. He's like, yeah, he feels when he came into this that he would be in a love triangle. He doesn't care about the other person. And she's like, wait a minute, I don't want to be the other woman. He's like, no. I felt that there would be another man that you would be interested in. And I'm like, Marissa, you don't be a love triangle where he has to choose between you and another lady. But you were quite fine when he said you get to choose between him and another man. I will put a pin in that, Marissa. He said he was married before, which he did share with her on the first date that we did not get to see. He was married to his high school sweetheart for 4.5 years. And it's because they kind of grew apart. He was moving away from Christianity. He grew up in a very strict religious home. He does not speak to his ex anymore. And he feels like it was terrible parts of his childhood where he critiques himself too hard. Because of his previous strict religious background, his self-image and self-critiquing took a really hard hit. He never felt good enough for his dad. That's what he said. Marissa, shared that her parents divorced. It was her mom with raising 4 kids alone, no help from the dad. They were very poor. She had a lot of people in her life to show her the world that her demographic would not usually experience. Her volleyball coach took them to Disney, and she is a giver. She just gives whenever she can. He says, his friends are like his family. They're a great example of healthy masculinity. Healthy, he said. He expresses emotions. just teaching him to be in touch with who you are. Those are healthy examples for him. She finds his conversation on gender roles very attractive. He says he does not feel he has to follow traditional images of masculinity. And Marissa says she used to be in the military and she's used to she's used to dating military masculine men. She will not say no to a guy because of his height. And she dates people for who they are. Now, here's my thing. Ramses, he reminds me of the star of The Last Dragon. If you know, you know. Good head of hair. He has like a plait or two with a couple beats. He is very eclectic. When I see Ramses, I see artist. And I don't know if I wrote down what he does for work. I didn't write it down. Interesting. Well, maybe they didn't share. They probably did. I didn't think it was important. But Ramses is a very interesting guy. I get really great, interesting vibes from him, but I don't know if he'll be chosen by her. Interesting. So in the women's lounge, we have Taylor talking, that Garrett keeps saying they're serendipitous. And he apparently sent a bouquet of her favorite flowers, the sunflowers. In the letter, he mentions their first meeting, and he even remembered the pod they were in. She's like, of course you remembered the pod number. And he asked, will you be my girlfriend, yes or no? And the other young lady with us like, oh my God, I'll go get you a pen. Oh my God, yeah. And Taylor is giving me, she's like, yeah, she's giddy, but it's like a subdued giddy. She's like, I'll answer yes. And she put pheromone perfume oil on the letter. And she said she comes prepared. Why? Why would you need a pheromone perfume oil? Okay. I just think it's a little too much. While Taylor and Garrett, my science couple, don't show me outward emotion like, oh my God, giddy. It's like the cute smiles I like, but it's like, she's like, oh yeah, I'll sign this. It's like, oh yeah, it's giving me a lot of very subdued about how I used to be, very introverted. Ooh, child. So, we have Alex 32, who is a fashion content manager, and Tim 32, who is the content strategist. Remember, I have to write this down until I get to know each and every one of them. So Alex, asked, why did you apply to only Norfolk State? And he said he wanted to be in a band. He had musical instruments. He and his sister played them in the home, and they were all over the house. And he said, but in college, he felt directionless. Very interesting when so many people say you go find yourself in college. He said he was not a straight A student nor an honor roll student, but he tested high in high school. So he got the scholarship to go to Norfolk State. He said he hated school because he felt stupid in the system. He went and he joined the Navy. It was the best decision he made. And then getting out was the second best decision. It was well said, Tim. They taught him a lot, and he doesn't know where he was, going from here, but there's nothing he can't do. And they taught him there's no one that he cannot look in the eye. So I'm wondering if Tim had some self-worth issues in the past. So Alex does share that her grandfather was the national secretary for the Nation of Islam. Very high-ranking position, okay? He was close to Elijah Muhammad. There's a photo of him with Muhammad Ali in their home. And, Tim was like, I got a photo of Muhammad Ali at home too. She's like, her grandfather was big on not going to college, but her parents were big on going to college, but there was no money to go. And she said, she loves education, but it is not a requirement to have a college degree, I guess, to be with her. He said he read the autobiography of Malcolm X on his deployment to the Senegal, which was his first time in Africa. It struck him that he can do and be more. She said her dad was raised Catholic and she was confused because her grandfather was Nation of Islam. And, the father says that he just believes in God when she asked, what religion is he? And Tim said, that's common. What's common in all religion is love. He said, the hard thing about him is his kids won't ever know their aunts. Remember, his sisters passed away. His oldest sister had lupus, went into the hospital, and never came back home. She was gone before anyone told him she was gone. And I was like, that must be hard for a kid. He said he heard his mother make a primal sound when she heard the news, and he never forgot that sound. He also said he is wearing both his sister's high school rings on the chain around his neck, which I thought was really symbolic. Ooh. They both start crying. Tim said his most cherished memories are not those. He said his life felt like a sitcom. His parents were wonderful. They were brilliant. Their photos look unreal. And one time his sisters locked him out the house in his underwear. I was like, that is definitely sitcom worthy. Tim, I need you to sit down with someone of the producers and write this sitcom. The song they played was I Feel Like the World is Falling Down Around Me, Finding Comfort in a Dream. I know there are things I can't explain. Tim says he's never said this to anyone. And he said when he gets married, he's giving his parents one more daughter. And he can see their he can see their lives together and does not want to take their connection lightly. That's pretty heavy. They had a very heavy conversation, Alex and Tim. But the heavy conversation they had is of the past. I didn't hear much about marriage, about future, about how they're going to raise their kids, considering the different religions, considering he's given his parents one more daughter. I didn't hear much of that. Next, we see Taylor and Garrett, our science couple. Taylor says, there's more flowers for my boyfriend. And Garrett has a ton of notes in a gift box. She proceeds to read him a note. The box is filled with love letters between her grandparents. And, she says they're not here, but they're kind of here. She reads the letter. And I'm like, he pulls up one of the letters and you see the addresses, you see the old stamp. It was very well preserved. But I'm like, wouldn't their names and addresses on the love letters give an indication of her race? Interesting. So, okay, you didn't want to give your grandmother's name, but her name has to be on these letters. Interesting. So apparently her grandfather proposed via letter and wished that the grandma was there rather than him having to wait for her letter as an answer. And, she goes on to say, Taylor goes on to tell Garrett that he has been her number one for these 9 days and can't wait for more. Garrett said the fire started with them from the very beginning and nothing, he can't think about anything else. He did not expect this. She says we can have it all and didn't think this was possible. He said he was falling in love with a person and she is his person and wants to find out her quirks. He proposes. So Garrett proposes and Taylor says, absolutely. That's not a yes, but absolutely is inferred. So it's like, okay, the song they play is I'm So Crushing on You. There's Nothing I Can't Do. They're like happy, but they don't show a whole bunch of outward emotion. It's like she's like, oh my God, yes, absolutely. They're very reserved. They're very outwardly reserved couple or two people. And while I was excited, I sat there in my notes and I was like, I feel like I'm more excited about this than them. I'm more excited. Whew, wait a minute. So we have Monica, remember, 36 in tech sales. She has a date with the electrician, Steven, the electrician, at 33. And she asked, did you vote? He's like, yes, as a vet and an American, he feels like it's his responsibility. He says, he seems, when she said thank you for your service, he seemed like he's tired of hearing it. He's like, yeah, okay. And I was like, I do know a veteran like that every time they say they're veteran, that's why they don't, is they're tired of hearing that. But I understand why people say thank you for your service, because the views and opinions of military people were not always positive. Back in the Vietnam War, it was not positive. So I'm guessing, or I know a bit, that people wanted the military service members to understand and to get a thank you so they know they're appreciated. But I understand both people. So Steven says that he identifies as white all his life. His dad's mother is German and told him that they had Italian roots. So he's like, there's a little bit of spice in there. There's some Mediterranean spice in there. Like, Steven, were you looking real hard to find some spice in your background? I was like, whoa. He's like, there's some spice. So he says, when his sister did an ancestry, and here Monica is like, oh, I know it was going there. He said it shows 0.3% European. He's like, where's the Italian? Wait a minute, Grandma. He said, when they looked, it's mostly Nigerian and a lot of West African roots. He said, I've identified as white my whole life. And now he has researched and looked into African culture and read books, and now he's trying to connect with it on a personal level. I was like, there you go, Stephen. And she said, she's glad he can dive right in. She was also confused about her racial makeup and what to say in the box. She says her mom is Honduran and her dad is African American. And African American with a bit of Native American in there. So he's like, when you marry, you should marry for selfish reasons and because the person can push you to be a better person. He doesn't want to settle for anything less. And she admits that he gives her butterflies and a great feeling. I got that feeling. Stephen says, when he goes down on one knee, he wants his person to know it is his choice and beyond a shadow of a doubt that he is theirs and they are his. And the song they play is We Can Make It Through Me and You. Okay? Then we have Ashley A. and Tyler. They apparently exchanged blankets. And Bodie, which Tyler affectionately called Bowden, was sniffing at his blanket. And Tyler told him, get your nose out my wife's blanket. He said he wrote a prayer for them. They had food there waiting for them. They had the same plate. It seemed like a bit of Asian rice and some chicken wings. I couldn't determine. I don't eat chicken, so not anymore. So I don't know. So he wrote a prayer for them. He wrote it in his book and he read it. It was a beautiful prayer. I suggest that this moment in episode 2 that you do go listen to it. She was very moved. Ashley was very moved. I was moved a little bit. A little chip of ice came off this heart a little bit. And he said he was always afraid to pray out loud. And she said her faith has gotten her through things. She was never able to pray with her someone. And I'm like, Ashley, that is big. Tyler says he can express his past and have conversation. He can express his past with her. And he's glad he can have conversations with her without an argument. And she's like, he has been consistent and he has been himself. So he's like, you ready to hear music? And they have the kind of quiet disco headphones on, the headphones that light up. And the song is, they find somebody that will fill your cup, My heart spill over, my mind's made up. It's how I know it's us. Tyler does say, I love you, you are safe and protected. No matter what happens here, I will always have you. The song goes on to say, sometimes when hearts are healing, you go slow, can't rush the feeling. Are you ready? It's a ladder steep. It was a moving moment. Ashley does cry. She's like, I don't usually cry. He's like, yeah, I can tell. It was too funny. So he tells her to smell the blanket and consider it, me hugging you. And then asks, what's in your head? She said, it's everything I want long term. And what you want, he says, is on the other side of this wall. I don't care what's on the other side of your wall because we're getting married. In the women's lounge, she shares, oh, his prayer is dynamic. It was awesome. In the men's lounge, he's walking in, he's walking in real, tap, and everybody's looking at him like Tyler is like, the life of the party. He's like, this is the stroll of a man in love. Next, we have Garrett and Taylor, the reveal. Okay, we are revealing. Garrett said he is not concerned, and the experiment is to get back to what marriage is truly for, to get back to the people we are and not how we look. He said his love is so strong he doesn't care what she looks like. We see the lights turn on, we see the shadows, the doors open, and that is the end of episode 2. I wish to thank you for joining me for those first 2 episodes. Episodes 3 and 4 are going to come up shortly. I got to go run and watch them and do a recap video. Thank you so much for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment below. What did you like? What didn't you like about the recap, about the show? What is interesting? But we have our first proposal, Garrett and Taylor, and I think we're going a good way right now. But I think we're heading for probably a wreck because anytime it's this good, that means there's a whole lot of drama coming. So thank you, and I hope you will join me on the next one. Hit that like. Till the next one.